And only at High Winds.
The missing Welch girls cold case has captivated 4-staters for 25 years. While the courts have decided who is responsible for the deaths of the Freeman family and Laura Bible, investigators and Laura's mother still hold out hope the bodies of both Laura and Ashley will surface someday. Welch, Pennington, and Busick weren't the first suspects in the case. Tonight, KOAM's Tanya Bach investigates a few of the other suspects who didn't make it to the courtroom in her special report, Missing Still.
December 30th, 1999, Lorene Bible remembers the day like it was yesterday, watching investigators sift through the rubble of her daughter's best friend's family home.
All the floors and everything fell to the ground because it was up about this high, so everything was on the ground except where the waterbed was on Danny and Kathy's bedroom.
That's where investigators found the body of the mother, Kathy Freeman, and then the next day she and her husband discovered the father, Danny. Both murdered, killed from a gunshot to the head. But Lorene's daughter, Laura, and Ashley Freeman are missing still to this day. After little more than a decade, DA investigator Gary Stansel and OSBI agent Tammy Ferrari joined Lorene's search for the girls and their killers.
So many people that were in the file that you couldn't really eliminate any of them. Oh, it's been well documented. Jeremy Jones was one that confessed to it.
Did you talk at all about Ashley Freeman and Laura Bible?
Yeah, they asked me questions about it.
Former Northeast Oklahoma and Southeast Kansas resident Jeremy Jones was already on death row for a murder in Alabama when in 2005 he confessed to killing the Freemans over a drug debt. Ottawa County, Oklahoma jail records show Jones was arrested for public drunkenness and possession of drug paraphernalia at 4 a.m. the night of the fire. Jones told authorities he shot the Freeman couple and set their house on fire earlier that morning.
You told me that you can't lie to me when you look me in the eye. Look me in the eyes and tell me if you're responsible for their death.
I'm responsible for their death.
Jones told investigators he took the girls and threw them into an abandoned mine shaft near Galena, Kansas. Their bodies were never found, and Jones later denied confessing to anything related to the case. In 2016, Lorene created a Facebook page dedicated to finding the girls. Shortly after, a tip led Lorene and investigators to Chetopa, Kansas, where Danny Freeman worked with Charles Kreider, a man who a few years later strangled a woman and dumped her body in a creek.
There were a lot of people in Chetopa that looked at this friend of Danny Freeman's because he was convicted of murder.
But a search at Kreider's home also turned up empty. However, by that time, Lorene's Facebook page was gaining traction with 3 more suspects to focus on: Phil Welch, David Pennington, and Ronnie Busick.
We had their names originally in the files way back. It was, along with hundreds of other names. It never came to the surface until around 2017.
The kids of the people in Chetopa were the ones contacting us.
We've spent so much time in Chetopa knocking on doors, having to track these people down and say, hey, do you know something? Yeah, I do. Like, why have you guys never came forward?
So a lot of these people had information and knew that they were involved, but they didn't want to die.
Conversations surfaced detailing that December night in 1999 when Welch and Pennington had intentions of retrieving a drug debt from Danny Freeman, and Ronnie Busick was along for the ride. Several of the witnesses also matched accounts of seeing Polaroids of the girls bound.
That they were able to see things in the photographs that with certainty identified it as being Phil Welch's house.
Everybody knew then that Philip Welch and David Pennington was dead, so they felt like they could talk a little more, but they still didn't want people to know who they were.
People just said there was just this look about him, just that people were afraid of him.
Phil Welch died in 2007. 1 week later, lightning struck his house out here in rural Cherokee, Kansas, and burned it to the ground.
7 years, 7 months, and 7 days after the murders, he died.
And he had his day of reckoning with the good Lord when he got there too. Now you're going to go straight to hell and you're not going to collect nothing.
The kids told the investigators they lived in fear not only for their lives, but for their mothers who dated Welch and Pennington.
One of them said, if you tell anybody, we'll kill you.
The witness accounts led to multiple dig sites in Pitcher, Oklahoma, and the eventual arrest of Ronnie Busick, who later pled guilty to accessory to murder. But no real closure for Lorene Bible,
I just want to know where my child is.
who believes there are still answers out there. Tanya Bach, KOAM News.
Ronnie Busick was sentenced to 10 years in prison, but because of good behavior and time credited while in county jail, he was released after just 3 years in prison, back into the area where he committed his crimes and where family members of the victims still live. This week, for a second time, Representative Steve Bayshore is attempting to pass Laura and Ashley's Law, a bill designed to keep that pain from happening to other victims' families. Join us Thursday night for part 3 of Tanya's special report, Missing Still.